The following is an AZPM original production.
For AZPM, I'm Mark McLemore, and this is Arizona Spotlight. Coming up, comedian Joe Pera is coming to talk to Tucson, and I have an interview with this very rare individual. What is the power behind a name? Find out why the Tucson Audubon Society is following a national trend in favor of changing their name, and some other differences that may be coming to the ornithological world around us. And meet Barbara Schroeder. She's a Tucson crafter with a passion for knitting socks, the real old-fashioned way. Those stories are all next on Arizona Spotlight. A comedic voice like Joe Pera's is hard to find. Calm, relaxed, gentle, and very offbeat. His name is now being mentioned along with the likes of Bob Newhart, Mitch Hedberg, and Stephen Wright. He won many people over with his gentle show Joe Pera Talks to You that aired for 3 seasons on Adult Swim on the Cartoon Network. Joe Pera released his latest stand-up special, which was called Slow and Steady, for free on YouTube. A native of Buffalo, New York, Pera is now on the final leg of a giant North American tour that he called the Pera's Tour, and it took me a long time to get that. I talk with Joe Pera next, starting with how he keeps up the tremendous energy he needs to drive a comedy train for so many people.
I like the idea of driving a train, but it's mostly just trying to get a good night's sleep, going for walks, and not having too many beers in the evening.
Mm-hmm.
If I can manage those things, I'll be good.
Well, you've been working all over the country. Is coming out west and stopping by places like Tucson and Phoenix, is that inviting to you?
Well, definitely headed to Arizona in the middle of July, which most people aren't willing to do, but I am looking forward to it. Last time I was out there, my friend Bob took me for a hike early in the morning, and it was very impressive. Was it called like Garden of the Gods or something like that? Very beautiful 5-hour hike out in the desert, and I think you crossed through 2 different types of desert, and being from Buffalo, New York, the desert is a very striking place compared to what I'm used to seeing, so I do like it. I'm very fascinated by it, and the shows were good last time too. That was like, I think, February or March, so it wasn't too hot at all.
No,
we had our
yeah.
sweatshirts on.
Well, I just saw a TikTok video, of you this morning about how one of your friends was kind of leaning on you to make some fashion choices, and you were getting geared
Right.
up. You were changing your look to come out
Yes.
and see us here and in California.
I basically went to a Adidas fashion store in Manhattan and bought a pair of big Adidas pants and a woven vest that's, I think, considered stylish right now. And I'll be honest about it. I returned those clothes. I got my $200 back, and I'll be wearing my regular khakis and button down on stage because, whatever is most comfortable is really the way to go. And also, that was I don't know. It was just for the video.
Well, not that you need my advice, but Joe, I think you should just be yourself. It's been good for you. It's been reliable. So don't you go changing.
Thank you. Yeah, it's sometimes fun. I like hockey jerseys a lot, so I had a Vancouver 2010 Canadian national team hockey jersey, which was one of the more beautiful hockey jerseys ever made, I think. And I wore that in Toronto, which was fun. And I wore my Sabres jersey in Buffalo. I got a Milwaukee Bucks jacket I got for my show in Milwaukee. I think the thing is, I guess I support all of those teams, the Buffalo Sabres, the Milwaukee Bucks. So it feels good, but I feel like, there is a point where you can betray who you are a little bit if you're trying too hard with clothes.
Yeah.
It's fun. I'm a pretty low-key guy, but I am getting up on stage, so I want to make sure it feels like an event or something special. I don't know. If you come across a Milwaukee Bucks jacket that's shiny, you got to get it. But if I'm going out, trying to get to put on some stirrups and chaps for the Tucson show, I think that might be a little bit trying too hard.
When you were talking about your team allegiances, that says a lot about you, Joe, because you're not a monotheistic guy when it comes to your sports teams. You like a lot of sports teams. You enjoy the experience. You're not just there, rooting for one team.
Well, I guess I am a big Bills fan. I like the Sabres, so they really, hopefully, will turn things around soon.
Does it bother you that I don't know what sport the Sabres play?
It's hockey. I mean, you're in Arizona. That's fine. And I'm sorry to those of you who are upset about Phoenix going to Salt Lake City.
Yeah, I've heard a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's a bummer. I enjoyed watching Jeremy Roenick play. And I thought that the original Phoenix Coyotes jerseys were pretty sharp.
I'll have to Google that. So do fans ever send you gifts?
Sometimes. I get a good bit of tomato stuff based on my Instagram, but somebody in Vancouver gave me a mug that was very fun. It was about something that referenced taxes. I think it was where he worked. There was some kind of tax lawyer gave me a company mug, but that was fun.
Yeah.
I get a bunch of tomatoes. Sometimes people will knit me a scarf, which I don't anticipate that happening in Arizona, but I get some pretty cool knickknacks from time to time.
Hey, there may be some frustrated knitters listening who have always wanted to make a scarf. They just ended up in the desert. So maybe you will score a scarf.
I'll take it. I'll definitely take a scarf. I probably won't put it on though if it's over 100 degrees.
It will be. Yeah. Here's a question that I ask every time I talk to someone who's involved in the world of comedy. Have you ever heckled anyone? Be honest.
No, I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think so. Sometimes maybe tease our friends if they're on stage in an appropriate situation, but never at like a professional show.
Yeah, I didn't think so. You seem way too polite. One of your videos that I really liked and is one that I'm quick to recommend to people is the one where you discovered The Who and how the song Bob O'Reilly really brought a lot of joy to you. And I found it kind of uplifting. And then I wondered, have you had any musical epiphanies since then? Have you had anything close to that kind of a life-changing experience?
Yeah, that was from the first season of my TV show, Joe Pera Talks with You. And yeah, I definitely had that moment with that song when I first heard it. Most recently, I think I was feeling down politically, so I went back and watched the old favorite video, which is Billy Bragg performing Waiting for the Great Leap Forward live on David Letterman. And that was, I don't know, it made me feel a little better, but that was a hell of a performance, and I got chills watching it even for the fourth or fifth time.
Joe, have you found your comedy attracting attention from the neurodivergent community?
Somewhat. I get questions about it from time to time, and I've found a lot of people have reached out who are neurodivergent, and I think that the TV show appealed to a lot of them because it's slowed down the amount of details, texture, and I mean, not only neurodivergent, but a lot of people, I think, during COVID wanted something that allowed them to slow down, relax, a little bit more on the gentle side, and they hopefully still found it funny simultaneously, but I think there's certain things that definitely appeal to them.
Joe Pera's most recent comedy special, Slow and Steady, is available free on YouTube, along with many episodes of Joe Pera Talks with You and Drifting Off with Joe Pera. More importantly, Pera will be appearing in Tucson on Saturday, July 27th at the Rialto Theater at 7 o'clock. There are some videos and a link on the Spotlight page at azpm.org. For decades, a national conversation about whether places and things named after those on the pro-slavery side of the Civil War should be preserved or renamed has been happening. Next, Tony Paniagua welcomes two representatives from a local nature group that's engaged in a debate about severing ties with the name of a man who died in 1851. Artist and naturalist John James Audubon. His legacy, while once being seen as being benign, is now recognized as racist.
Melissa Fratello, the Executive Director of Tucson Audubon Society, and Luke Safford, the Director of Engagement. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for the invite.
Melissa, I understand that you grew up or were living in Buffalo, New York before you moved here. What brought you to Tucson, and how did you end up with this position?
In Buffalo, I was serving as the Executive Director of Buffalo Audubon. I had been birding for 10 years or so out there, working in the conservation community, when I went to a conference in Maine and met my partner who lived in Phoenix. And I said, I should give this a shot, but I won't move to Phoenix. I'll move to Tucson.
All right. Well, that's a good way of making it work for both of you.
Yeah.
Okay. And Luke, I understand that you were living in Seattle before you moved to Tucson?
Yeah, I was in Washington State, moved here at the end of 2014. My wife and I visited Tucson back in 2009, just on a whim. She wanted to go somewhere hot, and I wanted to go somewhere where there are some birds. And so we came to Tucson June of 2009 and came away just loving it. Like, we're going to live here someday. And then in 2014, we had an opportunity to move here and help be part of a new church plant. And then didn't know anyone, so I got involved with Tucson Audubon, started volunteering, and ended up with a job.
Melissa, the National Audubon Society was founded in 1905, Tucson Audubon Society in 1949. You are currently undertaking the effort to come up with a new name for the organization locally. Tell us about that, please. When did that come about, and what's the reason behind that?
I believe back in 2020 or 2021, National Audubon entered into a process of considering a name change. And in that time, there were a lot of chapters that were really eagerly awaiting the decision of National, because had they decided to move forward with the name change, which they did not, and they will cite a number of reasons, financial and otherwise, for not moving in that direction, but it did leave the chapter network in the lurch in terms of, well, we wanted to change our name, and now we don't have a clear path to follow. So I think there were a lot of chapters that were hoping for National to take the lead in that process. Instead, a number of chapters around the country are changing their names independently. Many of the larger urban chapters, the larger staff chapters, and some of the small volunteer-run chapters are adopting the name Bird Alliance. So we have the Oregon Bird Alliance, the Chicago Bird Alliance, New York City Bird Alliance, and that trend has really picked up. There are a number of reasons why Tucson Audubon has been interested in the name change process. We want to engage with as many people as possible, and we want our name to define what we do. Right now, the general population is not really familiar with the name Audubon. The Audubon name does carry with it a heavy history, and while Audubon did contribute a great deal to the birding community through his art, and for a lot of us, the name may have been inconsequential. But the more we've learned about his history, he didn't just own slaves. He was actively anti-abolitionist, vehemently, unapologetically anti-abolitionist. He did desecrate the graves of indigenous people and supported eugenicist theory. There's a lot of heaviness that comes with that. And if we are genuine in our desire to reach all people, there's so much dissonance that comes with maintaining that name and carrying that name.
It's always important to reflect and take time. It's not a decision that we made overnight. It's been a long process. I think we started this process of reflecting and thinking through the whole name change and what all of that entails back at the beginning of last year.
And a decision sometime in December, perhaps January of 2025. Is that your goal at the moment?
I don't want to be too ambitious, but we are, I think we're zeroing in on a couple of options. We are very heavily considering the Bird Alliance monikers. There's a network building around that. There's a lot of momentum building around that name, and it would identify what we do. But we have a committee assembled of volunteers and staff members. We will be, to some degree, polling the public and our membership, though we do believe fairly strongly that this should be an internal decision. I think it's safe to reveal that Bird Alliance is a front runner. And we hope to announce possibly by November when we'll have a little shindig for our 75th anniversary.
On a related topic, and I know this is not your organization, but it's the American Ornithological Society, is also working on changing English bird names that are named after people. Here in Tucson, for example, we have Anna's hummingbird, Lucy's warbler. I know you're not intricately involved with this or not working with them at all on this, but what is your reaction to that, Luke?
Yeah, when I'm out birding with people, I take folks in the community out birding all the time. And that's one of the questions I get because I hear about it. You just mentioned a couple of them. There's scores of different birds that are named after people around our area. Bullock's oriole, Scott's oriole. Bird names change all the time. There's splits. There's splits of birds. There's birds that get lumped together. And so names have changed throughout the history. I remember growing up being used to rufous-sided towhee. Now it's spotted towhee and eastern towhee. Rock pigeon became rock dove, then rock dove became rock pigeon. So names have changed all the time. And so if we can make it easier and simpler for people, then by all means, let's do it. I think there's no reason to get caught up over one name. It's important to just have something that makes sense to people.
Probably more descriptive of their habitat, their habits.
Like Lucy's warbler is one that you mentioned. One of the options that's on the table for renaming Lucy's warbler is mesquite warbler. Lucy's warbler are very intertwined with their habitat, specifically like velvet mesquites here. And so Tucson Audubon we do a lot of work with Lucy's warblers, nest boxes. And so if we renamed it mesquite warbler, maybe people would stop asking us which tree to put the nest box on. They would know that a little bit more, maybe. I don't know.
Very nice. On a different topic, Luke, the Southeast Arizona Birding Festival is coming up soon, and I know you've been working hard at that. Can you tell us about that, please?
Oh, yeah. Super excited. This is our 14th year. It's going to be held at the Doubletree by Reed Park. We have a big free nature expo. We have Roadrunner Adventure Day for kids and families at Reed Park on Saturday. It's August 7th through 11th. So that whole weekend, that whole week, we'll be doing field trips and presentations. Many of them are free to the public. Nature Expo is just free, open. You don't have to register. But if you do register, there's a whole bunch of different events that people can just enjoy birds together. I mean, that's all about the community. This is an opportunity for our general Tucson public and people from all over the world coming here to Tucson to enjoy and celebrate the bird life of our area, which is really unique and priceless.
I read on your website in 2023, more than 230 species were not discovered, but were recorded. Yes, observed. That's the word.
That is a thing that Tucson offers that even the people that live here don't necessarily recognize how much the wildlife changes as you change in elevation. And we have this incredible diversity of habitats. So even if you've never birded before, you'll discover something about the region that you didn't know. And what I love is that once you get people hooked on birding, once you get them noticing the birds in their backyards, it's a switch that you can't really turn off. Yeah. So yeah. We love flipping that switch on for people.
The whole thing that we're doing is inspiring people and gets them engaged. It's better for our community too when people notice those things around them in a different way.
Luke Safford, the Director of Engagement, and Melissa Fratello, the Executive Director of the Tucson Audubon Society, that will soon have a new name. Thank you very much for joining us, and good luck to you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tony.
Tucson Audubon's Southeast Arizona Birding Festival will be held from August 7th until Sunday the 11th. Even though that's usually a hot and humid time, experts say it's great for birding due to the increase in plant, lizard, and insect activity. For more information about the festival, you can log on to our website or TucsonAudubon.org. Although most of us use them, generally we think very little about socks. But not so for Barbara Schroeder, a crafter in Tucson who knows how to make socks the real old-fashioned way. She uses a 130-year-old machine called the hand-cranked knitter and sock machine. It was an American invention that dates from 1813. Next, we'll visit Barbara Schroeder in her Tucson home, and this story produced by Uzlam Uzgar.
My first pair of socks took me 6 months. When I finally got that pair of socks done, I was the proudest person in the world. I now make a pair in an hour and a half. Every sock I look at and I like. They make me happy. My name is Barbara Schroeder. I've had like many lives. Right before I came to Tucson, I wove, and I was living in Minnesota, and I was at the Weavers Guild in Minneapolis, and someone brought in a pair of these perfectly made socks. Somebody else says, these are store-bought. You can't sell this at our bazaar thing. And somebody says, no, they were made on an antique sock machine. And my ears perked up, and I thought, wow. Went online, and I saw them. Well, then I also saw that you can't find them. Once they electrified the factory, they would melt them down. So not that many of the old machines are left. I joined a Yahoo sock cranking group that was worldwide. It's almost like a cult. I found a woman in New Zealand that had machines for sale, and she promised they worked. So that's where I got my first machine, which is out in the living room. The old machines, like the one in front of you, 1830, the man who invented the flatbed knitting machine turned his flatbed round and made a circular sock machine. This one doesn't make the same clicking noise, but they make a little clicking noise. If you can hear it, you know. I think we just messed up that sock, but that's okay. That's all right. Anyway, I can fix it. Somebody worked on this machine to make, well, how much money would you make in 1850? And young girls, I assume you'd be like 12, 13-year-old girls could have been in there, to even older women were bringing home their 25 cents from working all day long making socks. They left sort of a mark on the machines to me. I can trace my heritage like back to Ireland. There could have been girls in my family that worked in these machines. The old machines carry that sense of a person, which it has heart to me. Everybody can pull out a drawer and there's a bunch of socks in there. But if you're somewhere in the trenches or overseas fighting, socks become a critical issue. During World War I, the soldiers were fighting in France in the trenches. But a lot of them only had one pair of socks. They got wet and yucky, and they had what was called trench foot. They put out a call for women to make socks. The factories sent machines to the front, and with it would come a person who could teach the kids who were walking wounded, I guess is what you'd say, how to make socks for the other guys. It was a massive effort. I don't look at myself so much as anything other than a factory worker. So Mondays and Tuesdays and Wednesdays are women's socks. On Thursdays and Fridays, I do men's. So I go to my little piece of paper and said, oh, I need men's extra large. That gives me a balance through the week. Every machine I have is set to something. They make a different thing with a different amount of tension is needed. So that's why I have so many machines. That, and I'm sort of addicted to them. It just is very calming to me. In the mornings on Mondays, I will go and get all the yarn I'm going to want for the week. And I will wind the cones up. Then I would sit down and I do clean my house. It doesn't look like it, but I do periodically clean my house. By afternoon, I'm cranking socks. By Thursday, I'm washing socks. Every day is kind of the same thing. There's different routines, but that's kind of what the day is like. I am a bit of a hermit. I tend to be a little compulsive, which is maybe why this works. I also need to make things. You're born that way, okay? It's how you're put together. I was the one who would make somebody a candle out of crayons that would melt all over the table when you lit it. I come from a generation where my parents and grandparents saved balls of string. Today, people would just throw it away. So I use every bit. I don't have big challenges. I think that's part of the reason why I like doing it. It's sort of not quite mindless, but it's just therapeutic. I walk in here and I'm happy. I overbuy, there's no getting around it. People say, what happens, you're 73 years old, you've got quite a bit of yarn. If I quit selling at the market, I'm going to make socks for homeless people. Everybody deserves good socks.
That story was produced last year, but we just heard from Barbara and she's doing great. She's working on building up her inventory until October, when there's a good chance you can find her at the Riito Farmers Market on Sunday mornings, and maybe even in Green Valley on Wednesdays. That story was produced by Uzlam Uzgur for Arizona Illustrated on PBS 6. You can see the story you just heard on the Spotlight page at azpm.org. Thank you for listening to Arizona Spotlight. This show is a production of AZPM. The production engineer is Jim Blackwood. Production assistance by Alicia Vasquez. I'm producer and host Mark McLemore.
AZPM podcasts are made possible in part by donations from listeners like you. Learn more at support.azpm.org. Thank you.